Hello everybody, welcome to the channel Computer Science Division and Notes. Here already we have seen three units, that is operating systems, computer networks, data structures and algorithm, and lastly programming language and graphics. Today we'll see database management systems. Here I have taken up some 6 problems. First let us read the problems and complete it one by one. Okay. See, a relation R A B C D E is decomposed as A B B C C D D E with functional dependencies as given as A tends to B, B tends to C, C tends to D, D tends to E, and D tends to B. Check if dependency preserving or not. So we'll first write down the functional dependencies and try to solve them. So this is the relation A, B, C, D, E, and here it is split into 4 relations A, B, B, C, C, D, and D, E, and then they are given the functional dependencies. So first, for solving these, when we want to try to find out whether it is dependency preserving or not. So what are the steps that we have to take? First, what we'll do, write all the attributes separately. Leave the relations, just write the attributes A, B, C, D, and E. So for each of these attributes, write what are the possible dependencies which could happen. Okay. So here for A attribute, what are the dependencies exist? So here A tends to B, then A tends to C, A tends to D, and then A tends to E. So these are the possible functional dependencies that can occur. So just write down these. Similarly for B also, write what are the possibilities. So B tends to A, B tends to C, B tends to D, and B tends to E. Similarly for C, C tends to A, C tends to B, C tends to D, and C tends to E. For D, D tends to A, D tends to B, D tends to C, and D tends to E. Now for E tends to A, E tends to B, E tends to C, E tends to D. So after written these possibilities, now let's check with this closure what they're given, the functional dependencies, which all dependencies occur. Actually, they're given some functional dependencies, but when you see these dependencies, there are some hidden dependencies as well. Okay, hidden dependencies means what? Like for example, so A tends to B and B tends to C. So we can say that as A tends to B and B tends to C, so you can say that A tends to C as well. So these are called the hidden dependencies. So we can write we have to choose the hidden dependencies also. So based on these above given functional dependencies, just mark the dependencies which are provided as such, and along with those which are hidden dependencies also. Okay, so C for A, here A tends to B, that is already given, so just mark it. Now A tends to C, for A tends to C, because A tends to B and B tends to C, so A tends to C is also valid, so mark that one. Now A tends to D, A tends to D, how A tends to D, so A tends to B, B tends to C, C tends to D, so it means that A tends to D as well, so this is also valid. Now A tends to E, C, A tends to B, B tends to C, C tends to D, and then D tends to E, so we can say that A tends to E as well, so mark this one. Next B, similarly for B also we have to mark these dependencies. So B tends to A, so B tends to A, this B tends to A, see from here B tends to C, C tends to D, D tends to E, also D tends to B, but B does not tend to A, so this will not come. So B tends to C, B tends to C is already there, mark it. B tends to D, B tends to D, yes, B tends to C and C tends to D, so B tends to D is valid. B tends to E, B tends to C, C tends to D, D tends to E, so B tends to E as well, so mark this. Now C tends to A, C tends to A, C tends to D, D tends to E, and then D tends to B. So C tends to D and D tends to B. So this is this, but it's not. C tends to A will not happen. Okay, so now C tends to B. Now C tends to D and D tends to B. So we can say C tends to B. So this is valid. Now C tends to D. C tends to be already given. So mark it. C tends to E. C tends to D and D tends to E. So C tends to E is also there. Mark it. So next to D. Now D tends to A. Now D tends to AR. Now D tends to E. And then E does not tend to E something. So this is not coming. So D tends to B. So D tends to B is already there. So it's given. So it's the market. So D tends to C. So D tends to C. Is it possible? D tends to E. D tends to B. D tends to B and B tends to C. D tends to B and then B tends to C. So you can say that D tends to C. So this is valid. So then D tends to E. D tends to already is given. So mark it. Next E. Now E tends to AR. See here E value from E nothing is coming. So no functional dependency. So E tends to A is not possible. E tends to B is not possible. E tends to C is not possible. E tends to D is not possible. So here nothing will come. Okay, next what you'll do, you take up these relations. Okay, so AB, BC, CD and DE. See, from among these dependencies which are marked, no, is now a mark, no, all these dependencies. From this, what are the relations A and B attributes coming? That we have to choose and write. Say, A and B means what are two possibilities can be? A tends to B or B tends to A, like that it will come. So first you see A tends to B is there. So write A tends to B. Next to B. B tends to A is there. No, it's not there. So we can't write anything. So now BC. So what about BC? So B and C. So here B tends to C and then C tends to B also. So here you can see that C tends to B also. So these are the possibilities. Now here C and D. Now C and D, more C and D, which are the functional dependencies can write C tends to D, here one. And then C tends to D and D tends to C. Here also we have D tends to C. C tends to E and D tends to C. We have two possibilities. Next DE. From DE what we can write? We can write D tends to E. D tends to E. And then that's what we can write in here. Nothing is there. So E tends to D is not there. So we can't write the one. So we write the functionalities which are coming into these relations, right? A, B, B, C, C, D, and E. So we written. Now to check the dependency preserving. Now these we have to use these. We found out no these functionalities. Now from these functionalities we have to check if we are getting the original functional dependency what you are given. So it's asked in the question. No? This functional dependency we have to determine from this one. Whether we can determine all these functionalities from these values which I have got now. So here A tends to B. So I'll just write down the other functionalities. See, A tends to B, B tends to C, C tends to D, and D tends to E, and D tends to B. These are the given one. Now I'll just check this one and put a tick if it is satisfied. See, A tends to B, satisfied. So this is satisfied. B tends to C, is satisfied. C tends to D, is there. D tends to E, is there. Now D tends to B. So we have to find if D tends to B is occurring. So when we see here we find that here if you find here D tends to B is what is required. So we find in CD we have one functional dependency, that is take this one, that is this one here. D tends to C, and from here we take what, here we have a value that is C tends to B. So we find that D tends to C and C tends to B. So by transitivity, so Since D tends to C and C tends to B, we can say that D tends to B. So we find out that info that D tends to B. So here, by using these relations, functional dependencies, we try to derive the original one. So we have found that D tends to B also. So this is satisfied us as well. Hence it is dependency preserving. Okay, so that's how we have to find out the whether it is dependency preserving or not.